Hi, welcome to Life Expressions. I'm your host, Chari Hinete Elon. I'm excited to have this episode today because we're going to talk about purpose. Last time, I have talked with my two mentors, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed speaker, Azim Jamal, and of course, a purpose-led community builder and leader, Farzana Kherani, about purpose. This time, we're going to dwell into that deeper and try to ask them about their personal experiences, how and when they found their purpose in life. And just so this episode is going to be exciting, I hope you're going to stay with us. And if this episode will speak to you, please share it with your friends and follow that subscribe button of Life Expressions. That will help us keep on sharing these episodes with you. And so, welcome to the show, Azim and Farzana. How are you today?
Thank you. We're doing great.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
doing great as well.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Spring is here and Easter as well is coming. And spring, they say, symbolizes rebirth, new life, new start. And I know that you both are living purpose driven lives. But before we get into how you are now, I wanted to ask, was there a time in your life where you felt lost and you didn't know your purpose at all? Let's start with you, Farzana.
Yeah, that's a great question, Sherry. I got to tell you, it took a long time for me to kind of sit back and just take the time to reflect. And I think, as we were younger and you're going through life, you think you have it all figured out. And you're, yeah, I'm going to do this as my career and I'm going to get married and I'm going to have children. I'm going to do this and this. And all of a sudden you realize you're in a stagnant mode of just do, do, do. And is there anything that's actually bringing you happiness? And so I think, as I got a little bit older and I started to sit back and say, I need to reflect, that's when I think I started to realize that there's more to life than just stagnance and just do, do, do. There's
Yeah.
purpose. And I think just starting my volunteer service really helped me get to that stage. And then, of course, meeting Azim during that all those volunteer opportunities also helped because his conversations, his connections, and just him talking to us specifically made it more impactful for us.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Farzana. How about you, Azim? I know you have been a mentor to thousands of businessmen and individuals finding their purpose and living a purpose driven life. But before you got into this stage, was there a time where you were also feeling kind of lost?
I think by the time I was 10 years old to 18 was a really difficult time in my life in terms of, I used to party, go out and come home late and gamble and whatever, fail on my exams. I was only very good at sports. I was very good at soccer and cricket. That was my only big thing. But the rest of the stuff was completely lost. And then when I was 18, I went to Kenya from Tanzania and I started to meditate in the morning. I took the opportunity to become, to take a word to practice. And I started meditating from 4 to 5 a.m. And that was a turning point in my life. My life started to gradually change. Then I went to England. I did my ACCA. I didn't like science. I failed all my exams in science. I did accounting, and I liked accounting, and I did quite well in accounting. I got the best result in the history of the college in ACCA in England at that time. And then I came to Canada. Accounting was driving me, but not purpose. Felt successful, and I can make a living, and I can do all that. And I came to Canada, as Farzana says, then you have an ambition to get married. Because in England, I used to work in the chicken factory and laundry to pay fees for my school. It was a tough life. And then when I came to Canada, my dream was to get married, have two kids, have a business. And after several years, I had all that. And suddenly I found out I was more happier in England working in the factory and laundry than I was in Canada. And that made me write about happiness. So my first book was about lasting happiness, 7 steps to lasting happiness. What makes people happy? And that's where the purpose started to come in, right? And then, of course, it evolved as you move forward. And now it's narrowed down to one thing, right?
Yeah. Farzana, going back to what you were saying, do, do, do. What did that season in your life look like?
Honestly, if I couldn't even describe. It was just dark all the time because you're you're feeling like there's no time to do anything else because you're just constantly like in this I wouldn't even call it a schedule. Well, I guess I could call it a schedule, but it was just always like I knew I had to do this and I had to do this and I had to do this and I had to do this. And it was just, like no time. I think what I can say is no time to actually take a breath. I guess
Mm,
that's the best way to say that is
yeah,
just, you just couldn't breathe. It was suffocating.
yeah. And what was the turning point? What changed?
I would have to say that, some family illnesses, some people that were important to me, weren't doing well. And we had to take the step back and started to realize that, you know what, life's too short and you got to learn to breathe. And, as I got older, other family also going through struggles, us going through our own personal struggles, and then getting asked to volunteer, meeting Azim, right? Like all of these things kind of just started to connect. And once I learned how to just take a breath, that's when things started to shift and change.
Wow. There's the power in taking a breath, right? In
Yeah,
pausing and reflecting and appreciating life, and that it is indeed short, and that you've got to do what gives you, like the joy and the zest to live. How about you, Azim? You were very busy. You said you were an accountant and wanting to get married. What changed and what said, oh, hey, this is my purpose?
So I think, the purpose kind of evolved. Getting into accounting gave me some kind of meaning, some kind of, feeling of importance that I can make a living. I'm a professional. I have 3 degrees, ACCA from England, CA, Chartered Financial Planner. But even when I was doing accounting, there was something about me that was driven by something bigger, and that was to make impact in people's lives and not just get caught up with numbers, but looking at goals and, all that stuff. And until I went to work with the refugees in Karachi with Focus, that's when I cried like a baby. My soul was shaken. I did a TEDx talk on Live to Give when I explained what happened. And when that happened in a small tent, the experience I had made me jump off the cliff backwards to give up my accounting career and change from accounting for business, which is accounting for profit, to accounting for accounting for life, which is accounting for impact. And that's when everything started to change. And so I found my purpose in the small, tiny hut of 11
Mhm.
refugees who were living from hand to mouth. And the experience I had there made me get shaken within me. And I cried like a baby, like in the cab ride to the hotel. And that time caused me to really think about my life and say, what is my life about? And what is my gift? And what can I do with it to really make an impact on this kind of cause? And that's where I switched, to decide to become an author, a speaker, a coach. And of course, I struggled a lot in this new career for many years before I found, some success. But I would do it again because all the struggle I went through, all the challenges I went through, all the obstacles I went through made me stronger, made me better at what I do. And I think if you don't go through that process, you never get to a stage where you really know what you're talking about. Right?
Yeah, I think it's our life experiences that help us realize why we're here. What are we here for? Farzana, I know you've said that, yeah, you took a time to breathe. Through your life experiences, something changed when you started volunteering. And would you say now you're living your purpose?
absolutely. I think I live and breathe the purpose. And I think what I would say, Sherry, is, you have to truly determine what matters to you, not
Yeah.
what you should value, because there's a difference. What you truly value, whether it's creativity or connection or helping others or just learning, whatever that is, once you figure that true thing that matters, your purpose is already fixed. It's there, right? And so I know my purpose is to help others. I embody that. I love that. I cherish that. I see a smile on someone's face because I gave them like a cup of tea, right? And that's my purpose. I know that's what I'm meant to be here for.
That's wonderful. Yeah. You have to know what matters to you. That's my key takeaway from that answer, Farzan. I
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely.
How about you, Azim?
Define my purpose as, inspiring people to rekindle and ignite their spark to create lasting happiness the corporate Sufi way. So there are 3 elements to it. Rekindle and
Yes.
ignite your spark, which you're born with, to create lasting happiness, not temporary happiness. And the corporate Sufi way is always combining the Sufi, the mystic, the spiritual, with the corporate, with the business. So it's more sustainable.
Can you also say that you're now living and breathing your purpose?
Well, it's you'll never become perfect. There's the biggest room in the world is room for improvement for all of us, but at least it's clear to me. To
Yes.
me, that anything I do 24/7 has to align with this philosophy. If it doesn't align, then my answer is no. If it aligns with this, there is some element of one of these three things in the process, then I mean, if it's not
Yes.
aligned, then I say no, right? And so I have to turn down many things which are good, but not great. Many things which are good, but not the best. That
Yes.
clarity for me has been very powerful because even this call, I said yes because it ties with what my purpose is to inspire people to create, to ignite and rekindle their spark and find lasting happiness, the corporate Sufi way, the business and balance way, right? And beyond. Right?
Yes.
So that's very
Yeah.
clear. And so it allows me to say no to things and to be focused on what I need to say yes.
I like that. For me, it's like Farzana. Before I found my purpose, it's like just do. Like getting busy every single day that you forget to breathe and you forget to enjoy the little things. But now that I have realized my purpose, my ultimate purpose credo, kudos to you, Azim. You are living your purpose as far as I can say, because you're the one who has inspired me to truly zero in on what I really wanted to do in my life without a doubt. And so when I found that out and when I realized that, like it's more than just doing, it's being. It is
Yeah.
enjoying the little things, right? Like even taking a sip matters to me, right? It's not just like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, just like Farzana here. But when I have realized, okay, yes, this is what matters to me, and this is what I'm going to do every single day of my life, wherever I am, however I can. And that is, for me, very powerful. And that makes me wake up in the morning like with excitement. Not all the time, but most of the time. What do you say to that, Farzana?
No, you know what, Sherry, I agree. We're human. We are
Yes.
human. So absolutely, you're gonna have a not so good hour,
Yeah.
but it's not a not so good day because your hour can shift and you'll be like, no,
Yes.
I'm not gonna let I've taken my hour. I need to readjust. I need to refocus. It's a good day. And you end up turning it into a better day. You just do. But you're right. That do really does impact everyone. And it's a lot of pressure. And I think
Yes.
people need to lower the pressure on themselves. It's okay to not have it figured out. And I think that's, something that I've really learned from both you and Azim. Just take the time. It's okay if you don't know.
I love that. Truly human. I love that. Azim, you are there already, inspiring many of us through your book, From Success to Significance. That's Spark, right? And you are trying to share with the people how to ignite our spark. But I'd like to focus on purpose. I know there's a lot of friends we've got that still do not know what their purpose is. What do you think is the first step for them to know what their purpose is?
Good question. In terms of, I think if they ask a question to themselves, if I could do anything and nothing could stop me to be amazingly successful, what will I dare to do? Now, that question allows you not to have limitations. I cannot do this. I cannot, that is not realistic. But if I could do it, what will I dare to do? And that gives you an open space, a blank slate to kind of choose whatever I could do and I could be amazingly successful, what will I do? And initially, people might think about where I can make money and where I can be rich and all that. But ultimately, if they really think deeper, what is the purpose of making money? I will find happiness, think happiness. Then they go into a deeper stage, right? What will give me lasting happiness? Money can buy me a car, a house, comfortably living, but does not necessarily guarantee my happiness. So that makes you go a bit deeper into what is really I want that will give me an inner joy. And if going back to our masterclass, the three aspects we talked about, the ultimate purpose credo, what is my one statement? The 2 minute statement I will say to my creator when I die, and my creator says to me, welcome back. Welcome back. I gave you eyes that were small, but you can see the stars 3 years of miles away. I gave you a brain that was more powerful than the computer. Tell me about your life. And you get 2 minutes to share something. What will you share? And if you can share something that makes you feel my life was a wow, then it comes to credo. This is how I'm going to live my life. Now that helps you to say, this is my end of all ends. Then that becomes, and then the second question is, what is my gift? I mean, if you put me in science or if you put me in as a doctor, a medical doctor, I'll be fired the next day, right? Because it's not my
Mm.
skill. So I have to do what I do best, right? Even accounting, I had 3 degrees, but that was not my best. So what is my gift that comes naturally, effortlessly for me? When I do this kind of work, I lose track of time. So I'm in the zone because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the third part of it is to be in the flow state. The flow state is you're so engrossed in what you're doing, the clock stops. You do so
Yeah.
much work and look at the time, it's only 10 minutes. And you've done so much because you're so much caught up into it that you have lost track of everything. Now, those three thing combination gives you that kind of space where you are really at your peak. Now, of course, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not for the perfect. It's a work in progress, but at least the clarity allows you to go towards the focus towards what you really want to do. Huh?
Yeah, I like that. I'd just like to reiterate, my key takeaway from that statement, Azim, that three things. You've got to find out what gives you joy, lasting happiness. You've got to find out what do you do best and do that. And so if you do what you do best, you can just do it like smoothly, flawlessly. And like that's when you say you have your flow state. But how do you find what you do best? Have you found what you do best, Farzana?
I think it's a work in progress, right? I don't think you're ever going to find what you do best. There's moments where you feel like you're doing the very best, and there's something that happens that shifts that a little bit, right? And so I think it's important for us to realize that when you have those moments of that shift, your perspective shifts a little bit, but it's not a failure. It's actually an opportunity, like a valued opportunity to reevaluate and evolve, right?
I
Because
agree.
maybe you're doing something that is not okay. Maybe you think it's okay, but maybe it's not okay for the situation or for the person or whatever that might look like. But when you can take the step back and just look at it as not a failure, but an opportunity, I think that's what really makes that shift better.
That's very important. I like it that, yes, it's true. We are humans, so we evolve. There are some things that we are good at and we can be best at. What do you say to that, Azim?
Well, I think, as Pradana said, it's a work in progress for all of us, right?
Yes.
But I think the more clearer you become, the more narrow you become, the more you're able to do less for more. Meaning that, focusing on core things and saying no to many, many things is a single most, attribute for great success. Because then you go deeper and deeper and deeper into one thing, not 20 things. And that process is a lifelong process. I mean, and once you get it, then you don't deviate. Then you don't
Yeah.
deviate. And then you have to be careful because each time you say no to this focus, you're saying yes to things that are not as important. And it's
Yeah.
difficult because sometimes you have to say no to things that are seemingly good and it could hurt people. It could make things sour in your life, but you're doing it for a bigger purpose, a bigger reason that for your life, a reason for being in your life, right? And I think that is
Yes.
not easy. It's not easy, and it requires. And I think the biggest challenge there is how do you do it without hurting anybody? How do you do it
Mm.
without being hurt by anybody? Because
Yeah.
both can happen, right? And
That's
whenever you are free from that hurt to others or hurt to yourself, that's when you're at your peak. And you have to keep yourself at your peak. And when you're at your peak, you do magic, you do spark work. But you have to keep that fine line all the time, not getting caught up, not reacting to things, and being very careful not to hurt people. How do you say no by almost feeling to people it's a yes, by respectfully saying no? In a way that makes people feel that you're very kind to say no, not like this is not in my, this thing is not good enough for me. It's not that. It's really about this will be better for you to have somebody else than have me.
true. Yes.
I have a question, Sherry, for both of you, just based
Go
on what
ahead.
Azim's now said.
Yes.
You know, when you're finding your purpose, does it need to be grand or life changing? Or like, is it a mission? Like, what is it?
For me, I don't think so. Like every one of us is unique. It doesn't have to be grand. It has to be personal, something that is bigger than life. That might be grand for others, but when you find your purpose, it's like you're looking forward to live each day and you're thankful for each morning that you are alive because you have something meaningful to do, not just for the whole world, but for yourself, for the people you love. I think if you find your why for living, not just existing, that is finding your purpose. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be grand, doesn't have to change the world, but changing yourself might be big enough.
For me, I think I gave an example yesterday. I was at the mosque. We had a session, and after there was a video we saw, there was a guy who wanted a ride to go to Ladner from Richmond, and he normally goes by bus. It was quite late at night. So I gave him a ride. Okay. Now you might say, how is that connected to my purpose? Guess what? On the way, I asked him, what kind of work do you do? He doesn't have a job right now. So he says, I do cleaning and I do gardening. So I said, I said, if you could only do one of them, what would you do? He said, well, I would love to do gardening. Sometimes it's cold outside and I do gardening. But he says, I love gardening. And I said, look, thing many people can do, but gardening not everybody can do. That's your core. If you get better at gardening and get better and better and better, and if it's winter, you wear warm clothes and the toque and whatever, and it's summer right now, it's springtime. If you get one client, just one client, and blow them out of like do a great job with that client, you start to build a bit more business to their client, their word of mouth, this and the other. So in the process of doing something small, giving somebody a ride for 15, 20 minutes, but talking about this purpose, about the best gift you might have, made me feel I was living my purpose in a small act combined with the big act. So the big act is very clear, but it's built up of many, many small things you do,
Yeah, true.
and you could say, you're giving a ride at night, half an hour going, half an hour coming back, so much time. But for me, it was a yes. You're making
Yes.
impact to somebody who really needs to make, like it's not just having a CEO who's going to pay you a lot of money. It's somebody who really needs it, and he's a good guy. He's a really good guy, young guy, does voluntary work, but struggles to find a job. So
Yeah.
to me, there are many, many small things we do, but aligning
Yes.
is important. Being clear
True.
about the purpose and aligning your activities to the purpose. That is the key.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Azim. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to share because recently I celebrated my first anniversary at my work at eFry. And, my purpose is to make a positive impact, right? And so on that day, there were just a lot of my colleagues who approached me and said, Happy anniversary. You are so positive. You bring so much joy into the workplace. And this colleague of mine told me, I come to your office just to see you smile, and that makes me happy. That makes me smile already. And I said, wow, that's a very small thing, right? That's a small act of kindness. Smiling to someone and being kind to someone doesn't have to be a grand gesture, is enough. And I think that is one very simple thing, one small thing that you can do by living your purpose.
I would absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And, like, you're right that the smallest gesture makes such a huge impact.
Yes, yes. But if there's, I know Azim already shared, right? Like for someone who hasn't found their purpose yet, what to do. But it's not, even for us who has found our purpose, it's not perfect every day. And there are times that we feel lost. There are times that we feel down. And even if we know that we're there for the lasting happiness, some things are not just going our way. What do we do, Azim?
Yeah, I think, you'd ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something wrong aligned to my purpose? If I'm doing something wrong, I take responsibility and course correct. If somebody else is doing something wrong, it's not my problem because I cannot control other people's behavior, but I can control how I react or respond to that behavior, right? This is also important because if you want to keep your peak state all the time, you have to be very careful, first of all, not to do something wrong yourself because then you're accountable, and also not to react to other people if they're doing something wrong because everybody is doing something right from their paradigm, and then you look at their paradigm and say, look, if I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change, as Brenda would say. So giving the people the benefit of doubt, not only that, but giving people the best possible interpretation why they're doing what they're doing. And that way you don't get affected by somebody else's behavior because what is your goal? To be in the peak state. You don't want your peak state to be compromised by anybody except yourself. So you become the captain, you become the architect, and you become the master of the destiny because you become in charge, not anybody else. People can behave what they want to behave, but you are in charge of how you process, how you look at it, and turn a minus into a plus. And sometimes, if I look at my history, I get triggered. I get triggered when something wrong happens. So I feel I become more inspired, more energized, better, right? So
Yeah.
to me, everything is a plus because I'm in charge, not in a negative, egotistical way. I mean, we all have ego and I have ego, but I try to make it a positive pride to say, look, I don't know how much time I have. I could fall dead. Who knows, right? Tomorrow, today, or who knows? So I have little time and I want to make this time the most effective. I have no time or energy to waste on firefighting or reacting or whatever because because is this a time I want to spend the new time I have in my life? Hopefully, I have many, many years, but who knows, right?
Yeah. No one knows for all of us, right? Anything to add to that, Farzana?
You know, I absolutely agree with Azim. But I think I think what I would add is understanding your own strengths as well, right? And empowering those strengths and knowing what you're good at. You don't need to be good at everything, right? But whatever you are good at, use that. Take that as opportunities. That's where you're going to find, where you're not going to feel like you're hurting anybody, but you're doing the best that you can possibly do. And with that, I would say when you are stuck, then think about others who have inspired you or have
Yeah.
conversations with your mentors, or it's okay to get help and ask, because sometimes, yeah, you're going to feel like, oh, maybe I did do something wrong. And you need to just have that conversation, not to recognize that you did it, that you did something wrong, but just to know that, okay, yeah, maybe I did make a mistake and how do I shift that? Or no, this wasn't really about me. It was something else. And it's okay for me to just move on from it.
Yeah. Love
I agree with
it.
Farzana. I think I have an uncle, my mom's brother, who I really respect. He's 10 years older than me. And so whenever I've had a challenge in my life, if I talk to him, he gives me a different perspective. And, he has a civil engineering background. He's very clear thinker. And we all need mentors in our life, right? Some
Yes.
you respect, you trust, and bouncing up with that person gives me peace of mind. And he will tell me, he will not shy away from telling me if I'm wrong. He will tell me,
Yes.
where you're missing the point. And to have somebody like that is a big blessing.
Agree. Yeah.
We're lucky,
I find
Sherry.
that.
We do have someone like that, and he's right in front of us.
Yes, exactly, right? Yes. And I'd like to say that apart from Azim, I find my sisters my closest mentors as well. And then, of course, in doing my work, I always think, what would Peter Legg do? If I see a challenge in my work, in dealing with people, I always go back and ask myself, what would Peter do? Peter is my mentor as well, whom I wrote a book as a tribute for him, and that's Mornings with Peter. And all my learnings about how he deals with people, how he deals with life, corporate and personal, it's all there. And I sometimes go back to it and just so to guide me, like, because not every day is easy. There might be difficult days and there might be challenges and would trigger me. And I would say, what would he do? Okay, and this is what I will do because that's my role model. Now, I'd love to move into what I call our spark round. Just quick, heartfelt answers
Can I,
from
can I
both of
just add
you.
one more about for Peter?
Yes, Azim,
I
go
think
ahead.
Peter Lake is
Yes.
a great example, and Sherry, thanks for sharing about him because Peter
Yes.
Lake, he's now a bit older, but when he was at his prime, if you look at his quality, the way he
Oh, yeah.
spoke and the way he communicated, he had one skill. I mean, he had many skills. But that was his skill, and he perfected it. He perfected it. The storytelling, the art, the power. And so that happened to focusing on one craft that he had so well, of course, he ran a business, but that was his core thing, right? And we all learned from it. He was a mentor for all of us in many ways, right? So I just
Agree with you.
put a plug there before you move to the spark, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Azim. Now, quick answers from both of you. What ignites your spark right now? Farzana?
I'd have to say, although it's been a very busy 2.5, 3 weeks of events in our community, it's the smiles on people's faces where you're serving them. That's my spark right now.
Amazing.
For me, it's like making an impact in the areas where I am best qualified for, right? So if I can make an impact in people's life with the gift I have, which is my purpose, which is my defining moment, defining purpose in my life, that's what gives me spark because I'm using my birthday gift to make an impact to one another, whether it's a young guy who is a cleaner or a gardener, or whether it's a CEO, doesn't matter. Whether it's black,
Yeah.
white, yellow, purple, boy, girl, old, young, doesn't matter. It's a human being. And by the way, fine, it's not a one word answer now. I have a quote in my book, One Minute Sufi. Where is God?
Yes.
God is in the buzz of a bee, the bark of a dog, the silence of a tree, the stillness of a log, the smile of a child, the hug of a mother, the singing of the birds. Everything is a signpost of the oneness of God. So when you look at everything as God's creation and treat them with that respect, that creates spark.
Agree with you. Yeah. God is omnipotent, omnipresent. He is present everywhere. When do you feel most alive? Let's start with you, Azim.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when I'm living my ultimate purpose credo, when I'm rekindling and igniting people's spark to find lasting happiness and aligning with corporate Sufi philosophy, I became very alive.
Wow.
Anytime I'm doing something around that, even the example I gave of the ride yesterday, I became alive when I was
Yeah.
with this kid, right? So anytime I'm
Yes.
aligning to my core purpose, I become alive. When I'm not, so I realize that, but I want to be alive. I want to be at my peak. So I try to align everything I do 24/7, if possible, to that kind of connection. And when I'm connected to that, I'm very alive. I don't need much sleep because I'm at my peak.
I love that. Farzana.
I would say just helping others. I truly feel alive, whether it's giving advice or serving people or, helping setting up a home or whatever it is. It's just helping others that just really ignites my spark in so many different ways. Yeah, and makes me feel like I accomplished something so amazing, even though it's so small.
That's wonderful. Yes, you
Service
were
is the
saying,
foundation
Azim,
of
service is the foundation of spark.
the spark
Yes, for
ignition,
sure.
ignition, right? The first letter.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And yeah, I just wanted to share that for me, it is like when I am doing something for others, that's when I feel most alive. And most especially when I know that what I did has changed their life, even for just a day. One word that defines your purpose. One word that defines your purpose.
How about I go first so then Azim can think of
Yes,
that one word?
Farzana, please.
My one word is help.
Me spark.
Great.
Spark, not me, but it's a spark.
Yes. Impact. And one message you want to share with the world right now. I know we are going to do a lot more episodes in Life Expressions podcast, and our message might differ from one day to another, right? And so for today, what is that one message you would want to share? Let's start with you, Farzana.
I would say like a simple daily routine where it provides stability. Doesn't have to be something big, but just a simple daily routine that provides stability where you feel like life isn't chaotic.
I like that.
That would be
Azim?
my message, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I would say it's 10:15 a.m. on April the 2026. This is the most important moment in your life. Start now. Start now. It's never too late. Forget about yesterday. Forget about 10 a.m. It's already gone. This is the time to begin. And the best way to begin is to begin and really start. And I like Farzana's approach about ritual. Have a ritual. Maybe 1 hour a day. Exercise 20 minutes. Read 15, 20 minutes and then meditate 15, 20 minutes and start small, even if it's 5 minutes each, and then build on that and create a new habit. And that small thing you do, but don't carry the baggage. Yesterday, this happened. Last week, this happened. 10 years ago, this happened. Or worry about the future, right? Because yesterday is gone. It's history. Tomorrow is a mystery. We don't know. Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And focusing on the present moment is transformation.
Yes, creating transformation. A transformation is created once you find that purpose, and every day is just meaningful. Thank you so much, Azim and Farzana, for your time. And I'm looking forward to our next episode where we will discuss service, right? I have just noticed, like, wow, Farzana's one word is help, Azim's is spark, and mine is impact. Just boils down to, I think, the next topic that we will have, which is service. And so thank you so much for listening to us. My dear friends, if this episode spoke to you and if you liked it, don't hesitate, share it with your friends. And in our succeeding episodes, we would like to encourage you to send us your comments and let us know what you would like us to talk about so that we could have this conversation going on. And yeah, let us just ignite our spark together. We do not have to figure it all out immediately or all at once. But what is important is you start now. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Find that purpose. Thank you so much for staying with us again. I'm your host, Shari Hinati Elon. This is Life